Hi everyone, how are you doing today? I hope you are doing well. I hope you're doing well. Today, I have my favorite books of the year, which is kind of huge, you know, having to think about your favorite books and narrowing it down. I struggled this year, to be honest. I really struggled. I wasn't sure what I wanted to do because every year I usually talk about around 10 books or more. But recently I went back and looked at my previous favorite videos and I wasn't satisfied with them. I kept questioning myself while watching those videos. Would I really go back and reread those? Did I really like them as much as I thought I did? I wasn't sure. So I decided that I would make a top 5, narrowing it down to 5 books. It was not easy, but I really wanted to make a list of the books that really hit me the hardest, that I know are going to stay with me, the ones that I do in fact for certain want to read at some point later down the line. But so yeah, favorite books of the year. I have my top 5. I also have 2 nonfiction books that I'm going to be mentioning on top of the 5 because I read 11 nonfiction books this year so far, and that's not that bad considering I read 60 books, 11 being nonfiction, so hopefully that number grows. Without further ado, let's just talk about the books because I'm rambling, you're probably bored, I apologize. Okay, the first book that I'm going to talk about quickly is my favorite book of the year. I figured I would talk about my favorite book first because it's so underrated. It came out this year, not enough people are reading it, it's young adult, so I'm honestly surprised. That book is Soldier Boy by Keely Hutton. This is a realistic fiction account of Ricky Anwar's time as a child soldier in Uganda in the late 80s, early 90s. This was heartbreaking, brutal, a little graphic at times, and I found myself having to put this book down a couple times while reading it because knowing that these things actually happen to these poor kids and their families and these people, it's just, I can't even express my feelings in the proper way that I would like to. This is such an impactful, important, relevant read that I'm honestly a bit saddened that most young adult readers are spending their time reading books like The Mortal Instruments. Not to say it's bad, I've read them, they're fine, but you know, Throne of Glass, they're entertaining books, but they're not, you know, they're not this. This is something that needs to be read. It should be smack dab on the shelf at the bookstore right next to them, and more people should be picking this up, and they're not. And maybe that's a bit of a rant, but whatever. This book deserves so much more credit than it's getting. So this is my favorite book of the year. Soldier Boy, Keely Hutton. I recommend this. 10 out of 10, 5 stars, blah blah blah. Next we have The Luminaries by Eleanor Catton. I talked about this on a recent read, so I won't get too into it. But The Luminaries is this giant book that looks intimidating, but it's so worth it. It's this jigsaw of a puzzle, really. It's a murder mystery. These 12 men are at this meeting and they're trying to solve this mystery, and all of these 12 men, they play a part somehow in this you know, mysterious disappearance death thing going on, so they're stuck. And you know, everything is on the line for them, so it's just such a beautiful book. I know not everyone enjoyed this book. Some people couldn't get into it, they thought it was too long, but honestly I enjoyed every second of it. I thought it needed to be this long, and I mean, it felt like a riddle that needed to be solved, and you were just along for the ride, and I had so many theories. I was so immersed in this story, and I already want to read it again. I enjoyed it a lot. I'm gonna stop gushing now, but The Luminaries was great. I highly recommend it. Another favorite of this year would be Now is the Hour by Tom Spanbauer. This is just beautiful and heartbreaking, and oh my gosh, why? This book was heartbreaking, moving, and ripped me apart and just hit me when I least expected it to, and my gosh, this book is beautiful and you must read it. Please read it. The main character of this book, his name is Rigby. It's set in the late 1960s, and it's a coming of age story. It's a figuring out who you are story and accepting who you are. And I don't want to tell you the specifics about this book because I feel that I might take away a bit from it, but what a beautiful book. The second that I finished this book, I had to go and pick up more Tom Spanbauer, so I found I Love You More, and I have no idea what this is about, but I'm going to read this one soon, and I can't wait because this was gorgeous. One thing I want to say that I know will hook some of you and will entice you to want to read this, if you love The Perks of Being a Wallflower by Stephen Chbosky, which one of my favorite books, you will love this. So if you love The Perks of Being a Wallflower, read this book now. Now. Right now. Okay? Okay. And the next favorite that I have here to talk about is The Three Musketeers by Alexandre Dumas. This I buddy read with Dana, Molly, Scully. I call her a lot of names. I'll link her down below. She's lovely. We buddy read this together. I don't know why, but before reading this, I thought I wasn't going to enjoy this. I thought it was going to be boring. And I don't know why, because I've loved all of the film adaptations that I've seen. I just thought that the book might not be entertaining. But it's fine because, my goodness, this was so much fun. This is just a wonderful, fun, adventurous book. It's hilarious as well, which I loved. All of these characters are wonderful, and I wish D'Artagnan and Artemis and all of them, I wish they were all my friends, but they're not. And I'm sad about it, but that's fine. Having read this, I really want to read The Count of Monte Cristo now because this was just... And I know Sue from the restricted section, I'm pretty sure, unless I'm thinking of the wrong person, but I think it's her. I think she loves The Count of Monte Cristo, so I need to find myself a copy of that and then read it. But, you know, again, The Three Musketeers was wonderful. Highly recommend. You should read it if you like The Three Musketeers, and if you don't, well, I don't care, just read it anyway. The next book will probably come as no surprise, and that's 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea by Jules Verne. I knew I was going to love this book even before reading it, and having read it, it's just this was such an interesting read because these men are held hostage within this submarine, and yet they have free reign within the submarine, and they view all of this wildlife. Our main character is documenting all of the sea life, and it's just fascinating. So stinking fascinating and so much fun, really. This book had illustrations and it just made it so much more enjoyable. I don't know if you can see that. My camera sucks. It's the Kraken, whatever. I really liked this book. Jules Verne is great. Although I've only read 2 books by him now, I own more, so I will read more soon. Those were my 5 favorite fiction books of the year, and now we're moving on to my 2 favorite nonfiction books of the year, so I hope you stick around because nonfiction is great. So one of my favorite nonfiction books of this year was Quakeland, On the Road to America's Next Devastating Earthquake by Kathryn Miles. This book was sort of eye-opening in a way because when you think about earthquakes, I mean, I know I just think about California, which I live in California, and you know, we're known for earthquakes. But the way that she talks about earthquakes in this book was fascinating. She talks a lot about fault lines and how we're unaware of a lot of fault lines. There's just not enough equipment and resources to track them all down. Therefore, there could be a fault line underneath you right now and you wouldn't even know about it. Isn't that terrifying? That's really terrifying. She also talks about how we as humans cause earthquakes as well, which is it's mind-blowing and it's awful. We are awful, really. Fracking, you know, water for oil and such, that causes earthquakes. Old mines, that causes earthquakes. She also mentions how most people are just unprepared. And, you know, the money lost, the damage, the life. Let me be honest for a second. I don't have earthquake insurance. I don't have a plan of what I would do if there was an earthquake, which is awful. I do not have an emergency kit in my car. I don't have spare water. I don't have extra food. I barely have enough groceries for the week. I would probably be screwed if there was an earthquake, and that's bad. That's bad. This is a really great book. And the last book that I'm going to talk about today from my favorites of 2017 is Alive, The Story of the Andes Survivors by Piers Paul Reed. I just finished reading this not too long ago. So this is about a plane that went down in the Andes. Most of the passengers were young teenage boys that were on a rugby team, and it's so heartbreaking. But the survivors of this plane crash, what they went through and the sheer determination they had to survive is just, it's so mind-blowing, because it makes you think, if you were in this position, would you do what they had to do in order to survive? And I don't know if I'd be capable of that. This is such a wonderful book, and yes, it is a bit unsettling, you know, cannibalism is a thing and whatever, but I mean, they did what they had to do to survive. So I really enjoyed this. 10 out of 10. Recommend. I wish I had a better copy of this book because it's so torn up. But yeah. And those were my favorite books of 2017. I hope you enjoyed that. Have you read any of these books? I would love to know your thoughts and opinions. Also, I would love to know what your favorite books this year were, because recommendations. I love recommendations, so please tell me what you loved this year. If you liked this video, I would really appreciate it if you left a like, a comment, subscribe maybe. All my social media links will be down below: Twitter, Goodreads, Instagram, blah blah blah. I hope you enjoyed this. I hope you guys have a wonderful day or night wherever you are, and I will see you in another video soon. Bye!